Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. It is episode 2. We have Shu joining us from her kitchen. We have Jurgen joining us from some other room. I don't think it's the kitchen.
It's the living room. Hello.
From the living room. We are here with episode 2 of season 3 of Coaching Journeys. Today's topic that we're going to be looking at is river bluff catching. This is an extremely important topic for your win rate. I want you guys getting this right most of the time. But first, we're going to look at some graphs. Shu has assured me that this is not her real graph, that some hands mysteriously and conveniently went missing from her export, and she has played more than 10,000 hands, but something has gone wrong.
I swear, yes.
You know
it
what
must
to
be
do.
you impacted file wrong or something.
In the comments, let me know if you believe her or not.
Bluff catching, bluff catching.
Right, on to bluff catching in a second. So this graph means nothing. These graphs don't mean anything, but we're going to show them to you every week because you guys love to see the weekly graphs because your brains are broken. That's why we're showing them to you, but they don't really mean anything. But as the samples build up, they will mean something. But I'm going to check in with both of you at the start of these calls and ask each of you, how did your week go? How does it feel to be playing poker? What's good? What's bad? What can I do? Like, is there anything you want to get off your chest or talk about? Sure, let's start with you. How's this week been?
The beginning was pretty good, and then at the end, I just spew in some chips. I definitely feel like I find a lot of spots that maybe I shouldn't bluff. I bluff too much, and then start to punt up some chips. It's kind of like a snowball effects when I start punting, and then a little bit more tilting a little bit maybe, and then just like spewing more chips. Yeah, I feel a little bit frustrated when I lost. I know I'm not supposed to feel like, the up and downs. If I win a lot of chips or lose a lot, I'm supposed to feel like, okay, how's my play? Did I make a good decision? Not about outcome. Because a lot of time, there are 3 or 4 times every time my kings all in is run into aces. Like, what should I do? There's nothing I can do. But it's just frustrating. I definitely feel like my emotion got a little bit affected.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that while we might be aiming as a stretch goal, like a goal that's like very hard to obtain, but we're like shooting for the sky with it, we might be aiming for that Zen state, that blissful tranquility. We understand as humans that we are always going to care about results to some extent in the short term. And I do not expect miracles. I don't expect you to go from getting a bit frustrated and tilted sometimes when things don't go well, bluffing too much. I can see from your database, spoiler alert guys, you're maybe bluffing a bit too much in some spots. We're going to get to that when we do your individual reviews next week. More on that later. But let's not aim for perfection. Let's forgive ourselves for getting frustrated. Let's put in action plans for what we're going to do when frustrated. Are we going to stop playing? What are our sort of cues to just take a break? How do we get back to that focus mode? Say you've got 20 minutes, right? Where you're taking a break. The start of the 20-minute break, you're not happy. You want to get your buy-ins back that you lost. You want to play more. You want to bluff. You want to call. You don't want to fold. But then you do something. You go around your house. You take a walk and you just get back to that space. You remember the long goal. You remember the race to 25 and you remember why you're here and that you owe it to yourself to go back and suffer through another 50 minutes or another hour of focus and exhaust your discipline and your willpower and do what you can to play your A game, because over the course of 6 months or a year, if you're playing your B- game when you're running bad and not your F game, that's the difference between success and failure. That is literally the difference, and it's so important. So do not use poker as your outlet. Be frustrated, be annoyed, be unhappy, and don't feel bad about that. That's human, but don't take it out on the buttons at the poker table. Don't play 3-hour sessions. Don't click the raise slider because of that frustration. Take it out somewhere else.
Okay, thank you, coach.
And now we come to a graph that makes Shu's graph look really nice, actually. Well, we're only down 11 buy-ins, but there's something about that tragic downswing at around 7,000 hands there that must have been quite grueling. Jurgen, how did your week go? What was that like when you started running like acutely bad like that? How's your mental game? How are you feeling?
So yeah, it was hard in the session, and I also sat down playing, thinking, not feeling actually ready to play, and it transpired into this. Yeah, it's a stretch of 1,000 hands that were actually really horrendous, and then I just stopped playing for like a few hours. Went to walk with the dogs and calmed down, and then came back later in the day to play again.
Yeah.
And then I felt at ease, and I was just playing better at all and not making stupid decisions. But yeah, the effect of making the stupid decisions is quite horrendous.
How much?
Now it's not all stupid decisions. There's probably some bad run as well, but I mean.
Mm-hmm. And how common is that when you're running bad, you can play like a much worse version of your game and sort of make the losses worse? Is that a common pattern?
Yeah, I think it actually happens a lot.
Okay.
Like
So
too much, especially when it starts going south, then it's just
yeah, so it's the hardest thing in the game is keeping your play to a high standard. And today's mental game theme for both of you really is that if you can play your C game and not your F game when you're running bad, you have an edge on every reg that plays their F game when running bad. And it is most regs. Like, I've coached this game for millions of years, as you guys know, Poker Dinosaur here. I've seen so many poker players that would have been winning at the end of 100,000 or 200,000 stretch if they'd only not just self-destructed during the bad sessions. There is no reason logically to self-destruct during a bad session because we know we're going to have bad sessions. We know they are inevitable, yet we do it because our lizard brain interprets it as resources under threat, can't handle losses, not safe, not okay. And when we feel like we're not okay and we're losing resources to competitors, we freak out, because if we were losing resources to competitors and the tribe, or in the old days before we had a state to protect us and bail us out, we would have been dead, right? It would have been like life or death. So our lizard brain does interpret it that way. And I'll be working with both of you closely on your mental game, and I want total transparency on mental game. I want us to look at the mental game demons in the eye and say what we're going to do about that, and never sweep it under the carpet. So thank you for being honest about the fact that your game fell apart there. It is normal, and we will work on it. And
the
yeah,
things I notice while playing is that you start folding too much in spots where you shouldn't, and then you think, why did I fold in this spot and not in the other spot when you call and lose, and then it just transpires into doing all things you shouldn't do, and just playing bad.
Yeah, mental game work will be a big part of this journey. We will have sessions on it. We will reduce the impact of this. We'll never fully eradicate it. Okay, on to today's topic. Hey guys, Pete from the future here. I promised both Shu and Jurgen that I would promote their Twitch channels, and I didn't. So here they are. You can follow Shu on Twitch as Victor_Frankel_, and you can follow Jurgen as Fish to Shark TV. Not only can you watch them here on YouTube, but you can see them playing independently with me not watching, see what they're really up to over on Twitch. Check that out. Let's get back to the action. So today's topic is bluff catching the river, which isn't just about calling, it's about not calling as well. But first off, some Carrot Poker School and just normal poker terminology. River bluff catcher. What is a river bluff catcher? Well, it's a class of hand we might have when facing a river bet. That is the node we're looking at today, nothing else. A river bluff catcher is a hand that beats every bluff in villain's range, but it loses to every value combo in villain's range. There is nothing good or bad about a bluff catcher. If you read the word bluff catcher and you think, oh, I get to catch a bluff with this hand, you're misunderstanding the concept. It's just a category of hand. You might call, you might not. And if you think like, oh, it's just a bluff catcher, I have to fold it, you're also reading way too much into the semantics of bluff catcher. Bluff catcher is just a neutral denoting term for a hand that beats bluffs and doesn't beat values. Sometimes you call with it, sometimes you fold. Average bluff catcher is 0 EV in theory. This is very important. In any river spot where villain is betting, for the most part, they're going to be using a normal ratio, a balanced ratio of bluffs to value in theory, and that's going to mean that a hand that beats bluffs and doesn't beat value wins exactly the right amount of the time to break even. There are some bluff catchers with better blockers, there are some with worse blockers. The ones with the good blockers will be winning a bit in theory, the ones with the bad blockers will be losing a bit. We will talk about that eventually, but that only moves the needle a little bit. The thing that moves the needle a lot is whether a spot is overbluffed or underbluffed, and we see in mass data, we see in grade E of the Carrot Poker School, code EMBARK25 to save on that and everything else at Carrot Corner, we see that it's not just a little bit that things are overbluffed or underbluffed. There are spots that are grossly overbluffed, where if you don't call with ace high, you're throwing away money. There are spots that are grossly underbluffed, where if you don't fold a set, you're throwing away 15 big blinds of EV or 35 big blinds of EV. Relative hand strength and absolute hand strength are paramount to success here, and you need to understand that your bluff catcher's strength is not derived from how high up your own range it is or how good it is in absolute hand strength. The bluff catcher's power is fully dependent on the opponent's range, and we will always want to call a bluff catcher when a spot is overbluffed, and we will always want to fold it when a spot is underbluffed, and we're not going to get bogged down in blockers at all today. We're going to focus on overbluffed, underbluffed. How's that sounding so far? Any thoughts on that or questions?
No, not really.
Looking forward to the content.
Well, the other thing we need to do is understand when a spot is overbluffed. What makes an overbluffed spot? What makes an underbluffed spot? Again, I want you guys to familiarize yourself with the factors that affect whether you range to call a bluff catcher or not. So a spot will be over bluff if lots of air lands on the river for villain. Remember, this is about villain's range. All of these factors are about the opponent. They're not about our range. So if villain lands with lots of air, meaning arrives on the river with lots of air combos, maybe their range hasn't filtered or condensed much, it will be easier for them to overbluff, to bluff more often than would make us break even. If on the other hand, not much air is possible, then it will be really hard for them to overbluff because they won't even have the candidate hand to bluff with. And that's only part one of the story. Part two is they still have to choose to bluff if they're holding that hand. So in order to fire the gun, villain needs to be holding the gun and then willing to press the trigger. And if they're hardly ever holding the gun, they're not going to be shooting very often, right? That's the analogy there. If villain's range is small, their value range, that is, then again, it's easier for them to overbluff because the bluffs in their range are going to be less diluted by value, less watered down by value. If villain has a wide and large value range, like they've just got there with loads of straight combos or something, then it's going to be easier for them to underbluff because there'll be more value diluting any bluffs they actually find. Now, this third factor is very important. What is their line like? Is this a way that a normal human chooses to bluff? And Shu, I want to talk to you directly here. Do not project your own maniacal bluffing tendencies onto the population, whatever you do.
Okay.
They are not you. They are playing very passively in a lot of spots, not all spots. And if they raise the river, I know you're a fan of raising the river, I've seen it in your database. If they raise you on the river, they don't have that same affection for river raises as a bluff as you do. So it's very important for us not to project our own game onto opponents. I've heard so many students say things like, well, I would bluff here, therefore blah, 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 or I would rep the blah, blah, blah here. And it's just honestly a really dangerous thought process to have. Think about the pool as button clicking, slot machine playing, lazy, half engaged, not that educated poker players. Remember, almost none of them have used code Embark 25 at Carrot Corner. Almost none of them have. So an easier natural spot for the population to bluff in is one where they don't have to risk much. They're chicken. They're scared. They're lazy. They don't like risking lots of money in spots that look gross. If villain raises you on a 3 flush river, that's not natural. If villain just bets half pot after you checked the turn, that's pretty natural, right? If villain checks all the way to the river, then just bets small on the river, that's really natural. He's just trying to take a cookie from the cookie jar. A lot of people in life feel no resistance to just like white lies or very small things like that, but people feel a big resistance when it comes to doing something like that they know is really wrong. And when it comes to bluffing in these elaborate, daring ways in gross spots, the population feels like it's doing something wrong. It feels a big resistance to bluffing in those spots. That's what we've got to understand at all times, even if we're not the sort of poker player that feels that resistance ourselves. Okay, guys, any questions on these factors? Do these make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah, they do make sense. Yeah.
Right, we're going to go to some hands with these in mind. We're going to speed review 10 hands now in the next half hour or so and try to make some good decisions on this. All right, first hand for today comes from Shu's database. She played this hand this week. Have a think at home, guys. What do you think about this? Jurgen, I'd like you to think about this as well as I replay it. Start to formulate some thoughts. So we isolate aces in the cutoff against hijack, which seems good. We go to this flop and we decide to c-bet. I think this is fine. I think you always have the option of betting bigger against recreational players with really strong hands like limp callers and stuff like that. And just, you are deeper here. You might want to build this pot a bit more towards the investment ceiling. You might want to fast play even more than this. You definitely don't want to check, right? You want the pot growing like we talked about last time. You could size up even more. No problem at all.
Yeah, but yeah. Oh, he raised me. Oh.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I remember what happened here. Yeah.
Okay, so looks like a standard call, and then villain bets the turn. Let's start by asking, when we get to this river, we call the turn. Okay, river's a queen, and villain goes all in. Your first thought here should be, is my hand a bluff catcher? Is my hand a hand that beats no value and beats all bluffs? Is that a fair description of aces in this spot against this line shoot? What do you think? Is this a bluff catcher?
Yes.
In game, what's your awareness that your hand is a bluff catcher currently? Do you ask that question? Do you establish that fact in game?
I think it just happened so fast that I didn't. Yeah, I know it's like aces. Part of me is like don't want to let it go. Part of me like want to bluff catch. Yeah.
Okay. Do you accept that you're not beating any value hands when you're in game here? Does that cross your mind that you're not beating value?
Yes, that crossed my mind.
Okay, good.
I'm only beating bluffs. Yeah.
Good. So you're
at least have sets where if it's not straight or sets. Yeah.
So for value, it's straights and sets. That's really good. So that's the first acknowledgement we always need to make. And for those of you watching at home, I know that lots of you play this spot and you don't make that realization consciously enough. Like, it's not automatic enough. So that needs to be like so automatic that it's just like we know it as soon as we face this line. This line demotes aces to a bluff catcher. And now the only thing that matters is not whether it's aces or kings or ace queen or a jack. Like, you may as well have a 7 now, right? You may as well have 8-7. In fact, that's a better hand to have than aces now blocker wise, because you remove straights and sets. But because you have aces, your irrational lizard brain might say, but it's aces. But this is bullshit. We know this is bullshit because it's a bluff catcher.
I know.
Right, Shu. Next question. Do you think this is an overbluffed or underbluffed spot? And I want you to really try to use the factors on the cheat sheet.
This is, he raised the flop and bet the turn and bet the river, and that's a very underbluffed line on the cheat sheet. Raise, bet.
So raise,
Very,
bet,
very-
yeah, raise, bet. That's the sort of MDA approach. The raise, bet is an underbluffed line, and I think that's very good that you know that. If you're putting it into the factors on the cheat sheet, you can see why that's the case, right? Because there is not lots of air landing on the river, because villain would have to decide to check raise something like a flush draw or like some sort of just airball hand, and then also bet it on the turn. So like, people don't do that on the flop and turn all that often. There could be some like 10-9, some diamonds. There are some, right? There are some air hands landing on the river, but not that many. The value range is, I wouldn't say it's small or big here. There's 4s, there's 7s, there's some 6-8 type combo, something like that. But the absolute nail in the coffin here, the really killer thing for us, is this third factor. It is very difficult, unnatural for the villain type population to bluff in this way with the chosen line. To go raise, bet, as you say, is extremely unappetizing. So when you put this together, when you say, I actually only beat bluffs and this is an underbluff node, you have to fold. You have to get into the habit of folding every single time that is the case. Now, let's talk about mental game for a second. Clearly, because this is coaching journeys, we don't fold at the start of coaching journeys with aces. Like, that's very common at 10NL. We don't fold here. In game, what would you try to eliminate from your thought process, Shu? Like, what kinds of habits do you have in game here that you would like to no longer have that might be causing problems?
I should start recognizing their line, the check raise and bet. That's very strong. And also holding aces is like kind of like married to the overpair and don't want to let go. This kind of thoughts. Should just know aces just one pair, and this is bluff catching and analyzing their lines, and like more. But I think when I play, it was really, really fast. I didn't really have time to process everything. Yeah, I should like slow down and think a little bit.
Yeah, you really need to take your time. If you find that you're being impulsive in game and you're clicking buttons quickly, that is something I can't fix until you stop it. Like, I can't get you to think the right things if you're taking 2 seconds to act and you're reacting rather than thinking and then acting. So the first thing we need to do is that when that pot's getting bigger, when that line by villain is unexpected and it's clearly changing their line, their range, I need you to slow down, hands off the mouse, and start thinking. And let's do a bit of self-image work quickly here as well. Who do you want to be in poker? Like, what kind of poker player do you want to be? Like, what avatar are you building here for yourself? Are you building a punter, a gambler, a button clicker? Or are you trying to build the avatar of a professional,
Professional.
Yeah, who do you want to be? Who do you want to like see in the morning when you look in the mirror 2 years from now and you like think about your poker career? Not that poker needs to define your whole self-worth, but when you're playing poker, you need to build the self-image of the professional. And the professional doesn't act instantly with aces. The professional doesn't get married to aces. You're trying to be the professional, so we need to start seeing the habits of the amateur punter, the habits of the fish. I don't think you're a fish. I think you think like a reg, but you've got the habits of a fish, and we need to start seeing those as unacceptable. Okay, let's look at one more of these big pots, Shu, and I'm going to get Jürgen to analyze this one first. So Jürgen, Shu has a6 in the big blind, calls the small blind open. You could 3-bet here. It's fine. You can study 3-bet ranges, blind versus blind. I won't get bogged down in that. They go small on flop, and we decide, oh, this is like last time, right? Fast play, slow play. Jürgen, what do you think about the fast play, slow play decision here? I'll let you talk about that because it is last week's topic. So let's do a bit of revision. How would you analyze that?
So thinking about, so we are in position with the SPR is big and we really have a good hand. Villain's range is wide because it's blind v blind, and there is definitely possible a lot of fold equity if you start raising. So I think calling is fine. But yeah, I mean, if you raise, it's not that bad at all. I think.
So you're saying it's close, like either play is acceptable. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say you can do both here.
So I think you should err on the side of fast play whenever the SPR is big at 10 and L, where people are more passive. They're more likely to call down ace queen than they are to like bluff something off. Like we've just said that lines like bet, bet, bet and raise, bet, bet at 10 and L are not that bluffed, right? So I would say that raise is better here with this little amount of money going into the pot. People aren't going to bet with like nothing on the turn all that frequently. Next node is not going to be over bluffed here, and they're very mergy. And while it's true that like the fold equity is good here and this is an overfolded spot if you raise, I agree with that 100%, but you're not waiting. Neither of you are putting enough emphasis here on the SPR being big and the villain's range being merged. Those are the two most important factors by far, and we just need to calibrate more to prioritizing those. I like raise on flop here. I think it's the best play against this population. I do think you can call in theory, probably. I don't think it's right against this population. Now we certainly have to raise, right? Not enough money is going in. Villain is merged more by the turn bet. We do raise and villain calls. On the river, we make a nice value bet. I really like your line here, Shu, on the turn and on the river. I think it's very good. I like the sizing. I think it's right for the hand strength on the river. I like the turn raise. It's really good. Then we get this bolt from the blue. Villain goes all in. And we're getting a very good price here. We're getting 24% required equity. So it's very difficult to fold here. Very difficult. So Jurgen, do you think we have a bluff catcher or something more? And then do you think this spot is over bluffed or under bluffed?
So yeah, I'm not sure if we only have a bluff catcher here because maybe ace 3 jams. Now that's the only combo I could think we beat for value. And I don't know if it's enough with the pot odds we have. And then yeah, if it's a bluff catcher, it's probably it's yeah. I mean, I think it's underfolded because they call the turn raise and then they can actually decide to call the river again and not jam. So if they jam, they just that's always value. I not always, but I think more than the 24% time you'll need to call here its value. So if ace 3 is not in there or not enough in there, I don't think I think it should be a fold.
But this is nearly an impossible spot to fold in, like for most humans that are playing these stakes. So Shu, I agree with Jurgen's analysis here, but I think this is an almost impossible spot to fold in because the amount of fortune reversal that has occurred here, like you've gone from having this really strong value combo and getting excited probably and happy that you're going to win a stack a lot to then facing this unexpected line. What do you think?
I think I have a bluff catcher here. It's definitely not a value beater. I mean, the only hand Jürgen said is a3. I felt it's unlikely. It must be at least ace 10, maybe ace 9, at least ace 10, if not a set, or maybe 7, 8. So I think that's just a bluff catcher. It's like very bottom, like of the value. It's like just a bluff catcher.
Yeah, and I think 7, 8 is possible because like people do range bet just without really thinking about it, and then they do bet call the turn with that sometimes, and then check raise the river. So 7, 8 is possible, ace 9 is possible, ace 10 is possible. I would say the value range to look at the factors is very small here. It's a very small value range, but it's not tiny, it's just small. And there's some air, like bluffs that land on river, there would need to be like, I don't know, some 9x combo that's being turned into a bluff, or some busted draw, some 4-5 or flush draw. But again, factor 3 is just fatal. There's just no way that humans bluff here at any meaningful frequency, because the thing is, right, if you take 100 villains, this is a really useful thought process for both of you. Let's say you take 100 villains in this pool. How many of them, obviously Shu's one of them, but how many of them actually like bluffing in spots like this, or have ever bluffed in a spot like this in the last month? I think you're talking single digits. I think you're talking like 4 to 5 out of 100 of them. And that means that 95 of them are never bluffing in this spot. And if 95 of them are never bluffing in this spot, that's not good for calling with bluff catchers. So your mission, both of you this week, is to start folding more with hands that were formerly good, have now become bluff catchers. This is honestly just like a mandatory thing that we need to do to become winning players to get to 25 and right.
Did I call? I did call, right?
You did call, yeah.
What, he has a set? I forgot.
I'm going to guess he has ace 10. Or his top set that he just... Yeah, I mean, wow. Okay, next spot, we have 8-7 of hearts in the cutoff. We open ace 7-3 and goes check, check. I think check is absolutely fine here. Villain leads the turn. They're going to do this a lot, right? So the main thing to think about this line is that it happens a lot. It happens a bit more than it should, and it can happen with random hands. Like, there's not that much definition in ranges here. At these stakes, we call, which is right. We have 5 outs. We have the showdown value. We beat bluffs. And on the river, they bet again. And we have a bluff catcher. Would you think, Shu? Bluff
Yes.
catcher?
Yes.
Let's go through the factors. Factor number 1. Is there lots of air in villains' range when they get to the river? Not after they bet, but when they get to the river. Or is there not much air? What do you think?
I think there's definitely a lot of air. Could be like busted, spade draw, could have like a 3
Do
or
me a favor.
6.
I've got a mission for you. Close your eyes.
Yeah, close my eyes.
Don't look at the board, right? Imagine a jack and a 10, right? Just a jack and a 10. Then imagine it missing the flop in the turn, because the board is anything. It could be king deuce deuce 3. It could be ace 7 6 3 like this one. Picture the jack 10. See it. That is 16 combinations. Okay, some of them are clubs. One of them's clubs, but it's 15 combinations of jack 10 that's not clubs. You can open your eyes. Now look at this board and see the jack 10 that's not clubs. See it.
Jack 10 is not clubs.
Yeah,
Okay.
just see those hands. They are there too. So when you start hand reading from the point of view of visually looking at the board, you're locked into the board. You are basically thinking very rigidly and not creatively enough, because ranges begin pre-flop. They're born pre-flop. And if we're saying that on the turn, there's not much definition, that people aren't good at slowing down or having restraint here, they could well be bluffing all of the combos at these stakes of, you know, king 5 that's related to the board, but even like jack 10 or queen jack or king 10 or something. I've seen all sorts of hands here because you gave them the chance to bet. You left them with their whole range on the turn and you gave them the chance to bet. So when you're going through the air, it's important that you don't just go to like a misdraw, but you also unlock that box and think about all the random nonsense that's there too. It's hard to do that because it's not literally on your screen. But that's why I got you to close your eyes and not look at the board. I just wanted you to picture a jack and a 10 first. There's a lot of value here too though, right? If we look at value range wide, value range tight, there's a lot of value because any straight, there's quite a lot of combos, there's some 2 pair, there's some flushes. It's a decently wide value range spot. Let's go to factor 3. How easy or normal is it for people to bluff in this way? Is this natural?
I think it's natural.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it like that, but I think it's a natural bluff. Looks very bluffy.
I don't like looks bluffy. I like it looks like a natural spot to bluff in because you don't know. Villain could just have a value hand. If Villain has a flush, he could easily do this too, right? So let's not say it's bluffy. Let's say it's over bluffed, because if we say it's bluffy, it's almost like we're saying that we have a read that it's a bluff based on the sizing or something. We don't have that read. We just have the read that it's over bluffed, that it's too easy to bluff here. So this call, I really like it, but I'm not sure at the time that your thought process is that, right? Because we haven't done this lesson yet. And, you know, we want to be calling for the right reasons there. They get to the river with too much air, and it's easy for them to follow through on the river with that air. It's natural.
Yeah, it's over bluff spot.
Yes. Absolutely. So when you check back on the flop and they just bet a couple of times, that's generally going to be overbluffed on most textures. When you check back twice and they lead the river, that's going to be overbluffed. And when they bet the flop, turn goes check, check, then they bet the river. All of these scattered aggression lines are typically overbluffed in wide range spots. And this is cut off big blind. Villain's the big blind. That's very important, right? That they just have the jack 10 off combo. Clearly, Villain has jack 10 off here. No, I'm kidding. I used that as an example because I did see the showdown before. But I just want to get you guys thinking about pre-flop air that was allowed to reach later streets because it just range bet or it just checked. It was allowed to get to the river. It didn't have to jump through any hoops to get to the river, and then it chose a line on the river that's natural to bluff with. Contrast that to the hand we looked at the start of today, the aces hand, and it's super unnatural to get to the river with a bluff here. Okay, it can happen, and then it's unnatural again to shove with it. It's just so different, right? You can see why this is underbluffed and the other one is overbluffed. Yeah. All right, so this is a hand that Jurgen played. We have pocket fives in the big blind. We call a 3x open from a short stack, so clearly against the recreational player. 6-6-3, they half pot. We talked last time about this being quite mergy. They're over-investing for this sizing. They've got too many random hands. Very clear call. I don't even think raise is like too ridiculous here, but I would go with call with this hand. Turn is a 4. We check, and they check back. The river is a jack. Our hand looks fairly mediocre. Is it worth some sort of block bet? It feels a bit thin on the jack. I think check is fine. And Villain goes for this. It's bet check bet line 11 into 13 recreational player. Okay, let's start with the protocol. I want you guys following this cheat sheet religiously here. So lots of air hands landing on river or not much air landing on river, Jurgen?
Yeah, I think they have still their full range if they opted to bet. So they see bet flop, for a standard half pot sizing. So that could be their whole range, and then check on turn, and then they arrive here with the river with almost their complete range. So I didn't do anything that filtered their range. So I think it's a very wide range. There are not a lot of value combos. So I mean, he's actually saying that he has a jack here almost. So what is it, 30% of the time, 60% of the time, if I'm right. And yeah, I don't know. I think I have a bluff catcher for sure. And the bet check bet line from a late position is probably over bluffed, but I don't know for this sizing.
Yeah.
So the only thing that leaves me that it's not over bluffed is the fact that the sizing it's a random sizing, so it's not like B75 or B. It's like scrolled up a bit, so maybe it is just value.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice it in game.
So your thought process has started off like perfectly here. Like you have a bluff catcher, villain gets there with loads of air, and it's not that unnatural to go bet check bet in MDA. You know, grade E of the Carrot Poker School, we talk about the scattered aggression lines that are overbluffed, and bet check bet in late position is a classic one. And we really do need to call here. This is very important that we call here. This is a recreational player as well. Like they can be opening the button with like 9-5 suited. They can be opening the button with king deuce off. Like I've seen it. They have even more combos that are terrible pre-flop and terrible by the river than a reg would have. Another thing about the recreational is you said they get here with the whole range. They don't get here with the top part because on a double flush draw heavy turn, a recreational is very likely to bet again with even 7s or 8s or anything like that, and certainly queens, kings, aces. So I don't even think they have like a thin value bet like 10s that often here. So I think they bet turn, and I don't think they have aces, kings, or queens often at all. And yeah, they can have a jack. That is basically what they're saying that they have, but it's just not enough combos, as you say. And it's very important that we call fives here. This is a hugely winning call. I'd expect this call to be winning more than half the time in a spot where you need like 32% equity. Let's hope that Jurgen called. Well done. What a surprise. He had random airball. So the thing you said at the end of your thought process about maybe this sizing a scroll up is just like, it's just the nuts. Like I get where you've got that from, and it's Clanty's fault. It's definitely yes. Clanty's fault, right? Let's just be honest and call a spade here. It's your fault, Clanty. What are you playing at, man? Because, well, it's not really Clanty's fault. Clanty's a very good poker player, but he does say in some videos, and other people say this in videos, I say this in videos, oh, it's like the scroll up. And if you see the scroll up, if you see the near pot size bet or a pot size bet in a spot that is close in MDA, that isn't overbluffed or underbluffed, you might lean fold. It's one of these deal breaking factors. It's like you have to choose an option and you've got this clue that pushes you over the edge in one direction. Right. But here we are nowhere near indifferent. So we do not go from this is a massively winning call to then it being a fold based on the scroll up. The scroll up doesn't have that much clout. And we don't even know if it's a scroll up. He just like punching in some number that's near the pot and bluffing with it. Right. So it's not the case that he's got a B75 button, then he's added to it necessarily. That might not be what's happened. So yeah, really, really important call. Right. Let's get Shu to review the next hand for Jurgen. Okay, Shu. So Jurgen played this hand this week. He has 9s in the small blind. He goes for call and faces a squeeze. This is already really quite grim and I think close, and I don't actually think fold here is bad, and I would fold here. I'd recommend folding here. The reason is this spot's going to be utter hell for you. You're going to make a ton of mistakes. The squeezer is not going to make many mistakes. It's going to be easy for them, and it's a huge sizing where like it's a huge enough amount of big blinds that the implieds are just not that great here. I'd actually recommend that you both just fold this spot pre for these odds. I'm not interested in this spot with 9s. I don't think it's winning. I don't think it's good. Just let it go unless you're getting better odds. 10-7-5, check, 10 of clubs, and we check. This could be a fast play, slow play sort of decision. What are your thoughts on that, Shu? Because I don't just want to lose sight of last week's lesson. Let's analyze the turn from a fast play, slow play perspective first before we get to the bluff catching part of this hand.
I think turn, maybe Jürgen can bet small, like 10 BB, something like that, as a equity denial. I mean, if you got raised, you just fold. You could have a 10, right?
Right. Let's wind the thoughts in a little bit here. So you're starting off on the right sort of track, because you're saying our hand benefits from fold equity a lot here. It's vulnerable, but that's not the most important factor. And then you're going to things like I could have a 10. You're not bluffing. You're not repping a 10. You're not bluffing here. That's not the point. The point is what's villain's range. Like this first factor is the most important one. Is it a dry, merged, or condensed villain, or is it a polar villain that you've got here?
I think it's polar.
Okay.
Either like nothing, like ace high, or maybe ace is trapping.
I see why you're saying that. I think you can see ace king and ace queen as mergy hands though, like medium hands here, rather than nothing. I don't think ace king is nothing here. I think it's like the two biggest cards. It dominates all of the other air. But I see why you're saying polar. Certainly on the flop, villain's pretty polar to like those two types of hand. When they check, I do expect them to be a bit less polar. Like I expect them to move towards something like ace king, ace queen, and I expect them to move towards that showdown value big cards more than like the king, queen, king, jack. I think a truly polar range here would be like they either have king, jack, or they have kings. That would be like mega polar. I think ace king can be seen as like a medium hand here, and I think they have that way too much, like way more frequently than they should, and therefore I totally agree with you. I think we should be leading here. I think we are still below our investment ceiling comfortably. I don't think they'll put enough overpair into their flop range for checking. And therefore, I think our default should be punish the range that's laden with ace king, ace queen, bet small, deny equity, fantastic, get value, be a favorite when called, push towards investment ceiling a little bit more, and fast play in a sense because the fold equity is useful, and because if we check, I don't think the next node's over bluffed. I don't think we're getting rich there by check calling river particularly. I think they'll check back ace high. If we check the turn here and on the turn, they'll check back and they'll check back river too. So I like it. I like betting. As played, we check and villain bets. And the question now is, what do you think of your competitor's call? Do you like it, or are you going to flame it?
I would fold there. I mean, I wouldn't play nines this way. I would 3-bet or fold pre-flop. I wouldn't flat call. Especially, I would definitely fold when someone squeeze. Yeah. So if as played, I think I will fold here.
Okay. Why? Tell me why you'd fold in relation to today's cheat sheet. So
wait, he didn't bet 3 streets, and then he bet quite big on the river. Actually, I don't know. You could have ace king, right? Now I'm a little bit confused. Is that a natural bluff? Probably it is a little bit bluffy. I just wouldn't get there this way. So it kind of like it's like a no man's land kind of.
Yeah, but you'd get there with other hands, and like you'd get to other spots that are similar. So it doesn't really matter that you wouldn't play the hand that way. Like you should still be able to analyze it from that point of view. Yeah, I think it's like I think the value range is a queen here. Basically, for the most part, is going to be a queen, like ace queen. I think that's really common. And what we have to figure out is of the other hands, the ace king, ace jack, and stuff. How often are they bluffing the river? Jürgen, what was your thought process like here? Let's go over to you.
So I was thinking like the queen and the club, it's a scary card for me. I haven't put any sign that I have strong hands. So I think it's a very natural card to bluff on with the ace kings, with the ace jacks, with the king jacks, all the suited combos they have that didn't hit the board. And of course, yeah, I mean, you're going to see a queen a lot, but I don't know if it's 60% of the time.
Yeah, in fact, like you're facing 2/3 pots, you need like 28, 29% equity here to call. So I actually think that you will lose the majority here for sure. Like this is not a spot you win half the time in, but I think you win 30% of the time here for sure. And that's what we always have to remember when bluff catching. As long as a decent amount of air lands on the river, and as long as the value range isn't enormous, and as long as it's fairly natural to bluff, I generally want you guys bluff catching. And when any one of those things goes massively against you, I want you folding. So as soon as villain is starved of air, because like he can't have the 16 ace king combos, and I would demote ace king to air at this point. It wasn't on turn, I was treating it as a merged hand on turn. I do think it's kind of air like on river on this run out. As long as they can have that, fine. As long as it's a line that people could bluff with, fine. I can see ace king, ace 4, king jack bluffing this way. King jack might have bluffed a bit earlier, but I think this is a call. I think it's important to understand that like it's not a great call, and it's not going to be that fun. You're going to lose more than you're going to win, but I think it's probably still a call, as long as villain isn't like a really passive player or something like that, in which case like they may not bluff ace king frequently at all. I think this is okay. I think this is okay against this line. And so it's important to look for the air in villain's range when you're analyzing this. Like ask how much there is. That's why it's so important to go to the cheat sheet. You're very capable of using these cheat sheets and having the right thought process. I think when you ask the right questions, you get the right answer very often. The problem is that your thought process tends to wander in random directions, right? Like on the turn, it was wandering towards, you know, you could have a 10 here and stuff like that. It's just not relevant. On the river, I think you're thinking far too much about the fact that you wouldn't be in the spot or what you would have done pre. There's just stuff in there that doesn't need to be in there. So we want to streamline your thought process more throughout this process. I think that's our goal.
Yeah, good call, good call.
I think that one's close for what it's worth.
Can I ask a question on the preflop?
Of course.
With the nines. So I tend to call most of my pairs below tens. So tens I would always 3-bet versus an early position open. Yeah, what are the thoughts on that? I mean, do you think like...
I think nines you can also bet. Also a 3-bet. I mean, borderline. Yeah.
I think you can 3-bet sevens and eights as well if you want. I don't think
No,
it's that
nines
bad.
is like the bottom. the bottom of the 3-bet.
So you guys are arguing about what at what point the range can 3-bet at. I think what you should really be thinking about is what's highest EV in real life. So the simple answer to this is that it doesn't really matter unless one of the opponents is a fish. And there's a guide to this. If the big blind is a fish, you should definitely call, because you're by 3-betting, you're just taking this thin break-even optional play, right? That you really don't have to take. You can take it, it's fine. You don't have to. And if the big blind's a fish, you want to play with that player. That's where your EV comes from. The fish are the people who are losing at 65 BB per 100, they're the ones making the giant mistakes post-flop. So you want them in the pot as often as possible. And if the opener's a fish, the 3-bet is more thicker for value now, and you isolate the fish more and you don't let the reg in. So you could say when the opener's the fish, I'm going to 3-bet. You don't need to make it big. It's a thin 3-bet. And when the big blind's the fish, I'm going to call. And otherwise, I'm really not that bothered. There is no real point discussing it if they're both regs. You can just go either way. I don't think it matters too much. In later position, I definitely 3-bet, because I think as you get to play against a wider range, the EV just starts to soar with this hand, cutoff against small blind. I'm leaning 3-bet because I think regs will struggle to deal with that. But when they're under the gun, they're so strong that I don't think it gains anything automatically to 3-bet here against a reg, unless, of course, I don't know. I don't think it gains anything. For today, guys, if you like this series, don't forget to smash that like button, leave us a comment, tell us how you think it's going. If you have suggestions how we can improve it, if you want to vote on who's going to win and what the competitors could do to improve, if you want to troll them and chat pro them, let them know why they suck and why you're great in the comments. You guys are great at that. Ace 7 of diamonds, we 3-bet here against under the gun. Under the gun calls, and we flop 2 pair in a 3-bet pot. How could this possibly turn into a bluff catching spot? Let's find out. We go small, villain calls, the turn is the queen of clubs, and we go again. So fast play, slow play wise, I think you can go a bit bigger here on this node. I think you can get a bit more money in there. Bring the hand up towards the investment ceiling a bit faster, a bit more smoothly perhaps, but not a huge deal, Jurgen, but I think maybe a bit bigger. Villain calls, 3 of diamonds comes in the river. We bet this sizing. Jurgen, how often do you expect to get raised here?
Never, almost never. If they raise, you're going to be bluff catching.
Right, so they don't raise ace jack on the river, guys. It sounds very obvious, right? It's clear, but your subconscious, all your lizard brains at home, they need to start realizing that there is no real point in having 2-pair anymore when you get raised here, unless it's a bigger 2-pair. Villain is saying that they slow played a set, or they played 4 or 5 suited this way, or that they just have the most common value hand that they have, which is, of course, Jurgen, what is it?
Ace queen.
Yes, well done. Imagine you said something totally wrong there. That would have been a great comedy moment. Well, we know we're getting raised because we are doing a lesson on bluff catching after all. How much air makes it to this spot?
None, almost none.
So we'd have to turn an ace into a bluff or something, it's looking like, or queen 10 of spades.
Yeah, I don't think there are a lot of bluffs here. The only thing I couldn't figure out is if they ever have ace 3 or ace 6. So that's the reason why I called, I guess.
Well, how many combos is ace 6?
1.
Yeah.
And ace 3 is also 1.
Ace 3 calling a 3-bet, also ace 6 calling the 3-bet pre. You've got this 1 combo of ace 6 suited, 1 combo of ace 3 suited, but I divide it by 9 because they got here.
Yeah.
So you've got a 1/9 of a combo of each of them. It's actually nothing. It's a convenient excuse to not fold 2-pair, right? It serves as that, but it doesn't actually mean anything in real life.
Okay.
So I think you just need to see Villain's range as a bluff or ace queen plus in this spot. And when you're super honest and frank about that, you're going to come to the right conclusion, which is fold. But man, it's hard to fold in a spot like this. But this is what I'm saying, guys. If you can get super honest and direct with folding these good hands when they become bluff catchers and under bluff spots, your win rate is going to soar. Homework for both of you. Find me 3 to 5 hands this week where you had a good absolute hand strength hand. Your hand looks really strong, but you have faced a line that has rendered it a bluff catcher in an under bluff spot and you have folded it. I want to see the fold. Also, if you fail to fold, and you should have, still send the hand for bonus points. Take accountability. Don't sweep those under the carpet. I want to see them. I want to see you come to the table with achievement folds where you've unlocked the badge of being the fold of a lion, of making the fold of a lion. But I also want you to come to the table with some badges of shame, with I should have folded here. I couldn't bring myself to do it. The lizard brain won. I want both. We're not sweeping anything under the carpet in this season of Coaching Journeys. We're taking full accountability. Who do you guys want to be? Do you want to be the player that's I can't fold 2-pair. I can't let go of aces. Do you want to be that player, or do you want to be a disciplined, esteemed professional? The choice is yours. Go away and think about it. Let's move on to closing thoughts. Let's start with you, Shu. What are you going to take away from today?
Not married to aces. Be able to fold. Think clearly. Don't let my lizard brain take over. And pause before making decisions, not just clicking buttons. And most importantly, remember the cheat sheet. Is it under bluffed or over bluffed?
Good. The cheat sheet is there for you. It's one thing to look at it and think that makes sense. This is cool. I like this. It's another thing to actually remember to use it in your reviews and when you're playing. The way to get it into your in-game play is to use it in your reviews first, right? So when you're reviewing the hands this week, I want cheat sheet based thoughts. And if you catch yourself wandering to things that don't matter, your problem shows that you played poker for a very long time, not a very long time, but a long time before you even knew there was anything strategic to the game, right? You just clicked buttons, you had fun with it for ages, and then one day you were like, oh wait, I could actually try and get good at this. And you are good at what you're trying to do. Like, the audience can see that you're good at it, but they can also see that you've got these remnants of like the old fish version of yourself. I'm gonna use the F word, you know, kind of creeping in and sabotaging. And Jurgen, what are you going to take away from today?
Yeah, I need to realize that I need to start folding these hands, and not finding excuses like a6 and h3 being in their range, and beating value.
You can find out what villain had in this hand next week on Coaching Journeys. Just kidding. You had the 4-5, you know, I wasn't expecting that one. I was expecting ace queen. But yeah, 4-5 does make some sense as well. Check call out position on turn. True really likes the results. Whenever the results come on screen, she gets like really happy about getting to see what villain had. We don't care what he had. We just showing the audience and you, because you all need to know. I don't care. I'm very bitter about results. I'm like, no, you shouldn't know. But yeah, 4-5 is weird. But anyway, it's not the point. It's usually ace queen. It's a fold. I think we've covered bluff catching extensively. We're not going to cover it for a bit. I am going to do your one-to-ones next week. So I'm going to be doing same time, same slot, but we're going to be doing like 40 minutes each, something like that. We'll talk about who's going to go when. And the point of the one-to-ones is to go into your database. I'll do that in advance and find out what I really think is like costing you the most EV. It's a leak plugging session for each of you. For homework for that, for preparation, I want you to write down 5 things that you think I'm going to bring up in your leak finder session. I want you to be super honest about that.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
guys. See you for episode 3 of Coaching Journeys.